met daily in a building that one of our founding fathers met in the early 1900s. The building was called Nash Hall. It's still called, I'm sure, Nash Hall. A little small building. But it was on the grounds where I went to college that some of our Pentecostal fathers suffered and were pure persecuted for their beliefs. It's pretty style or in style and somewhat popular nowadays to be Pentecostal, but there was a day when it wasn't the case. There was a day where you'd be ridiculed if it was ever known you had a Pentecostal experience. There was a day where you were categorized as ignorant, unlearned, stupid. And this is what church folk called you, not what the world called you. The world didn't care what you were experiencing. It was the church that persecuted those who were in the forefront of this movement. And so as I experience God on a daily basis, I am not distant from the fact that there are those who came before us who were Pentecostal when Pentecostal wasn't popular, when it wasn't in style, when everybody wasn't doing it. But there were pioneers that came before us. And I appreciate the pioneers. And I appreciate the history of not only our movement, but the history of the Pentecostal movement around the world. In the book of Acts, we are told in the first couple of chapters of a transition that happened in the lives of the disciples. Because prior to the baptism in the Holy Spirit, the disciples were in hiding. They were not in the upper room just because, they were all positioned for the next great thing God was going to do in their life. They were afraid. Lest you think these men walked on water and glowed in the dark. I want to remind you that not knowing what tomorrow held, they saw what they did to Jesus, and they figured if they were going to do it to him, guess what? They were going to come after us. So they were timid. Peter, who's going to preach one of the most prolific messages ever preached in chapter 2, denied him just a few days earlier. Disciples who pled with him, and they did not even know him, would eventually give their lives for him because of the power of Pentecost. Simon Peter, just mentioned, who becomes in the forefront and a major player in the book of Acts. We know his story in the Gospels. He was shaky. He was a reed. He was very unsettled. And many times Jesus had to pull his reins in and take him aside. At one time rebuked him openly. But it was Peter who demanded that he be crucified as a martyr upside down, lest he be crucified too much like his Lord.